At least 13 Haitian nationals died in the province of Valverde in the Dominican Republic, with 2 minors among the fatalities confirmed. According to Unicef reports, the children living in South Asia are exposed to temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius for long hours. And Niger remains under threat of military intervention following a warning from the Directive of the Economic Community of West African States. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On early Monday morning, Dominican Republic's authorities report the death of 13 Haitian asylum seekers in Valverde province, with 2 minors among the fatalities. According to preliminary reports, there are 2 survivors who have been transferred to a regional hospital center. The local prosecutor's office has assumed the investigation, from which it has only turned out that the Haitian citizens could have been illegal immigrants. The Dominican government has established strict immigration controls against the neighboring nation, which forces hundreds of Haitians who maintain family, commercial, and even health ties with the Dominican Republic choose increasingly insecure roads for crossing the border. On Sunday, the Apostolic Nunciature of El Salvador announced that the martyrs of the Civil War who were assassinated by the military will be canonized. The Archbishop of San Salvador, Monsignor José Luis Escobar, announced in a speech during the closing Mass of the celebrations in honor of the Divine Child, Savior of the world, one of the most important in the country, that the process of canonization of the martyrs of the armed conflict has begun. Among them is the Jesuit priest Ignacio Ellacuria, murdered in the facilities of the Central American University of El Salvador, along with other priests and collaborators in November of 1989. Archbishop Escobar took advantage of the occasion to call on the government to free the innocent people imprisoned during the regime of exception. Let's go to Bolivia. There, on the occasion of the commemoration of the 198th anniversary of that nation's independence, President Luis Arce Catacora called for national unity and reaffirmed his commitment to the struggle for a country with social justice. National and regional authorities participated in the celebration of the independence of the Latin American nation, and the main event took place in the Legislative Assembly, where authorities remembered the independence struggle fought in the nation during 16 years. In this context, the President Arce reaffirmed the national will to fight for a social just homeland and referred to some of the achievements that the nation has attained, among them the recovery of the national economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. Bolivia achieved independence from the Spanish Empire on August 6, 1825, and was refounded as a plurinational state with a new constitution in 2009.
I want to begin this message by reaffirming with great patriotic conviction our unwavering determination, commitment, and perseverance to never stop fighting for a homeland with social justice. 198 years ago, Bolivia burst into the concert of free, sovereign, and independent nations, an act preceded by an arduous and bloody war that for 16 years kept the colonial power in Peru in check, which was finally sealed by the extraordinary triumphs of the United Liberating Army, the famous fields of Junín and Ayacucho. Neither with Lima nor with Buenos Aires, High Peru decided to become a new independent country on that luminous day of August the 6th, 1825.
And the Vice President of the plurinational state of Bolivia, David Choquehuanca, also recalled the native peoples who defended the territory after 3 centuries of extermination and plundering.
We remember the 198 years of the War of Independence, fought for 16 years where we defeated the invaders, after 3 centuries of extermination and plundering of resources. It is a perfect moment to remember the struggle of thousands of anonymous native brothers and sisters who defended their territories in order not to be wiped off the map and not to be eliminated from the planet.
And after 3 days of debate, the Amazon dialogues held in the Brazilian city of Belém ended on Sunday. In the event, representatives of various sectors of society discussed the future of the Amazon region. Since last Friday, representatives of social movements, academia, research centers, as well as Brazilian government agencies and other Amazonian countries analyzed the challenges facing the largest rainforest in the planet. The protection of the native people, the climate crisis and health, as well as sovereignty, food security, and the bioeconomy were the main topics were analyzed. It is expected that at the close of the event, they will draft a document containing proposals to protect and address the problems faced by the Amazon region and its inhabitants. The final draft of the Amazon dialogues will be sent to the leaders of the countries of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, who will meet next Monday and Tuesday, also in the capital of the state of Pará, in the so-called Amazon Summit. And a new incident of violence was recorded in the United States. At least 3 people dead and 2 more injured in Washington, D.C. Approximately around 8 p.m. local time, detonations were heard, alerting the security forces, who upon arriving at the site found 5 people shot and wounded. The Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police reported that those killed are 2 men and a woman. Meanwhile, 2 other males were taken to an assistance center for medical attention. Authorities stated that they have begun investigations to determine who was responsible for the killings.
We are here again tonight on the scene of another senseless act of violence. At approximately 8 o'clock p.m. tonight, our officers responded to the sounds of gunshot here in the 1600 block of Good Hope Road Southeast. When the officers arrived, they found 5 individuals who were injured by gunfire. 4 of those individuals were males, 1 is a female. 3 were pronounced on the scene, and 2 were transported to local area hospitals. What I have to say tonight is this is very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. And we're asking you, the community, to please provide us with any information that you may have with regards to this incident on tonight.
Let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find the news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. According to a Unicef report, children living in South Asia are exposed to temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius for long hours. The United Nations Children's Agency, children in countries such as Afghanistan, India, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, among others, are exposed to scorching heat. They are the most affected in the world by this phenomenon, not only in intensity, but also in time, as they face more than 4 heat waves every year. The agency recalled that Kakobabad, a Pakistani city, recorded the highest temperature on the planet when it reached 51 degrees Celsius. They explained that children's anatomies cannot adapt quickly to changes in temperature. The government of China created a new special fund to help those affected by rains in the country's northern region. The Central Administration, the Ministry of Finance, and the Emergency Management of China reported that $50 million were allocated to rescue works, as well as for the recovery of affected buildings and constructions. Authorities detailed that local governments will be able to make use of these funds to face emergencies and assist the families affected by the typhoon Doksuri.
Upon receiving the goods allocation instruction from the Ministry of Emergency Management, the National Food and Strategic Reserves Administration immediately issued the order to relieve supply storage warehouses under the central government, who finished the loading of the supplies onto trucks within half an hour and shipped them out of Tianjin. When these national relief materials goods reached Tianjin, grassroots officials and volunteers immediately got organized and took action swiftly to deliver them to the disaster-affected people right away.
And in China, at least 23 people were injured and thousands of buildings collapsed after a shallow 5.4 magnitude earthquake that struck eastern China on Sunday. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS, the quake struck at 2:33 a.m. local time, 26 kilometers south of the city of Dezhou in Shandong province at a depth of 10 kilometers. The quake was felt as far away as Beijing and Tianjin, as well as in Shanghai, about 800 kilometers from the epicenter. Videos on social media showed shaking light fixtures, trembling ground, and people evacuating their buildings, with one clip showing people walking past bricks scattered on the ground. USGS pager system, which provides preliminary assessments on the impact of the earthquakes, issued a red alert estimating extensive damage and some casualties were probable based on the previous quake data. Now we move on to other topics. In Russia, at least one was injured and more than 20 people or 1,000 people lost their gas supply after the Ukrainian attack on a school and a bridge in northern Crimea. The educational institution was empty and the attack did not affect the structure of the bridge. However, the traffic in the area has been interrupted. The governor, Vladimir Saldo, denounced that the Ukrainian forces resort to state terrorism by indecently attacking civilian infrastructure and that the main intention of the regime was to attack the village school. He also pointed out that the bridge does not have much military relevance. On Sunday, Japan marked the 78th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima by the U.S., which killed almost 140,000 people. The highlight of the event was the traditional peace declaration delivered at the ceremony in the Peace Memorial Park by Hiroshima Mayor Kazumi Matsui. On the occasion of the Group of 7 Leaders' historic visit to Japan's park and its atomic bomb museum, Matsui urged policymakers to abandon the notion that the nuclear weapons deter war. The gruesome nuclear legacy took center stage at the last G7 summit of major economies in May in Japan. A moment of silence was observed at 8:15 a.m. local time, the exact moment when the uranium bomb was dropped by the U.S. bomber Enola Gay and detonated over the city on August 6, 1945, killing an estimated 140,000 people by the end of the year.
Given the reality that there are some who will use nuclear threats, leaders around the world need to face up to the fact that the theory of nuclear deterrence has failed and urgently begin to take concrete steps to move us away from the dangerous present towards our ideal world. The horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki caused by nuclear weapons must never be repeated. Japan, as the only country to have suffered nuclear war, will continue to make tireless efforts to realize a world without nuclear weapons, while adhering to the 3 non-nuclear principles.
And at least 30 asylum seekers are missing following 2 shipwrecks off the Italian island of Lampedusa. On Sunday, the International Organization for Migration, the IOM, said survivors had reported that around 28 people were lost at sea on one boat, while 3 were said to be missing from the second following stormy weather on Saturday. Both flimsy iron boats are believed to have set off from Sfax in Tunisia on Thursday. On Sunday, rescue teams were also preparing to pull about 20 migrants to safety after they were trapped on a rocky part of Lampedusa's coastline. The Central Mediterranean crossing from North Africa to Europe is the world's deadliest. Over 1,800 people have died attempting it so far this year, according to officials, almost 900 more than last year. teleSUR English launches its own videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, the top stories, the special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the top left corner in our website homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. And now we will have a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Niger remains under threat of military intervention on Monday following a warning from the Directive of the Economic Community of West African States. After the expiration of the deadline given to the National Safeguards Council of the Economic Community of West African States, Ecowas, the Council closed the airspace, mobilized the troops to the borders of the host countries, and warned of a joint response. However, the military intervention agreed to on Friday in the Nigerian capital by the Western Bloc High Command did not take place. Ecowas reported on Monday that it is preparing a statement with the next steps and does not rule out a new visit to Niamey. And we stay in Niger, where about 30,000 coup supporters rallied on Sunday afternoon at the General Seyni Count Stadium, the biggest stadium in Niamey and in all Niger. With only a few hours to go before the end of the ultimatum given to the junta of Niger by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the stadium was filled in response to the call by several civil society organizations. Nearly 30,000 people went to support the junta in a good atmosphere, and many Nigerian flags were waving in the stands. Several members of the Council National pour la Sauvegarde de la Patrie, the CNSP, were present and were cheered for a long time. In Senegal, deputies in the parliament have passed a vote which will effectively restore the right of two key opposition figures to run in the country's presidential election due in February. The vote clears any person who has been convicted by either pardons or amnesties them to run for office. The decision allows opposition heavyweights Khalifa, Sall, and Karim Wade to stand. Interior Minister Antoine Felix Abdoulaye Diom explained that many of the changes in the law resulted from the national dialogue. Many observers hope Saturday's parliamentary vote will help ease the tension being experienced in the country in recent months, as opposition figures have frequently complained of moves against them ahead of the presidential vote next year.
Basically, the idea was really to be able to grant amnesty to candidates such as Khalifa Sall and so many others for acts of which they have been accused. And so we salute the Republican dynamic that was felt in the room. The Bino parliamentarians, the Waldo parliamentarians, and the Taxawo parliamentarians have honored the commitments they made during this dialogue, which was initiated by the President of the Republic.
At least 28 people were killed on Sunday when an express train derailed in southern Pakistan, the railway minister said, with an emergency declared at local hospitals struggling to deal with dozens of injured. Railway Minister Khawaja Azad Rafiq told reporters that this is quite a big accident and that at least 1,000 passengers were aboard the Hazara Express when it derailed on a section of the tracks where no faults had been reported. He also said that there could be two reasons, a mechanical failure or that the failure was created, which means it could be sabotage, but that they will investigate. The derailment happened near Sahara railway station close to Nabuwash city in the southern Sindh province. The railway minister announced that an emergency had been declared at local hospitals as doctors struggled to treat the injured. There were chaotic scenes at the Nabuwash Trauma Center as ambulances and private cars ferried the injured for treatment. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.